Good afternoon, everybody. I hope you can hear and see me. So welcome to this event, which is the Introduction to Therapeutic Radiography at St George's University of London. My name is Lanisha, and I'm going to be the host for the event today. So I'll just talk to you a bit about the format of the event and what you can and can't do. So during this event, we can't hear you or see you. The only way we can communicate is through a chat box. So if you have any questions from now through until the end of the event, if you please use your chat box to send those questions through. We do have a current student and support staff here, as well as academics here ready to answer any questions that you have. So I'll just tell you about the format of the event. So in a moment, I'm going to start a video, and the video is from the student support team, and they'll be talking to you about accommodation, student finance, and student support. Following that, then we will hear from an academic from the course, and they will give you a course overview. After that, we will have a live student panel. So we have a current student here on the line who will talk to you a bit about life as a current student on therapeutic radiography. We will then have a live Q&A, so that's your opportunity to get your questions answered live. So as I said before, if you have any questions, please do send them in to us. We will type responses to those and also answer some of those in the live Q&A. Also, if you sent in any questions when you registered for this event, we will use those in the live Q&A and answer those at that time. Okay, if anything happens and it cuts out from your end, please do try and log back in. We will still continue with the event. If for whatever reason you're unable to log back in, then this event will be recorded and it will be housed on our website. So in the next few days, you can go onto our website and you can watch the recording of this event. Finally, at the end of the event, there will be a survey that will pop up on your screens. I'd be very grateful if you could take a few minutes out just to fill in that survey and give us some feedback on how we did and what we can do to improve these events in the future. Okay, so if you hold on for one moment, I'll start the video now, which will talk about student support. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name's Gavin Taylor and I'm the Head of Student Services here at St George's. Today I'm going to talk to you about some of the support services that we have for students here at St George's. Many of the services we offer are badged under our Student Centre or Student Life Centre banners, and these include things like health, well-being, learning support, finance and accommodation services. Let's have a look at each of those in turn and I'll give you some highlights of each of the services as we go through. So the first place to start is health. And let's talk about occupational health. Now, the occupational health team are there to ensure that students and staff are fit to undertake their work or their study alongside patients. And they're the ones in the application process who will ask you for reports about your health and will undertake tests and vaccinate you as necessary. OH are also there to make sure that any health conditions that might affect patient safety are appropriately managed. So they don't vanish on day one of your course. They're with you all the way through and all the way through your career, in fact, to make sure that you are healthy and okay and all right to work with patients. Now, universities will take a variety of different approaches to supporting the health of their students. You may find if you've been looking at large campus universities, they've got a health centre there on campus. At St George's, because we're an urban university, we work closely with our local GPs, and there are about 20 of them within about a kilometre of the St George's campus to ensure that everyone has access to all the services that they need. Most of the local surgeries will actually come onto campus for our Freshers' Fair in your first week, and they'll get everybody signed up there and accessing their services as they go through. That's how we approach your health while we're studying. Moving on to look at student well-being. So the place to start with this one is your personal tutor. So every student at St George's is assigned a personal tutor from the very first day. Now, tutors have an academic role. They'll be giving you some of your assessments while you're in study. They also have a very strong pastoral one, so they're there to make sure that you're okay and succeeding and doing your very best right the way through. And that's a big strength of the size of St George's. Our small size lets us offer that to everybody, and I think it's a real strength of what we do. Now, as well as your tutor and as well as the specialist staff on my team in the Student Life Centre, St George's has a very large, for our size, and very well-used counselling service, as well as a psychiatrist in-house to support students' mental health. We've also got a thriving faith community for a science-based university, and a chaplaincy that looks after both the university staff and students and the staff at the NHS Trust as well. And we work closely with our students' union in all kinds of different things, from faith right the way through to all the different activities that they offer, to make sure that there's a comprehensive network of support within the SU and the university and the trust next door, and all the way through all around our students while they're studying with us. From well-being, let's have a look at some of the learning support that's on offer. So again, universities will have different approaches to writing and study skills support, but all of them will have some. Here at George's, we operate an academic success center, and that's led by 3 senior lecturers who are there to really make sure that every student at St. George's does as well academically as they possibly can. That includes all kinds of different things, from English as a second language support through writing skills, and even A-level refresher catch-up sessions for our graduate entry students. So if you're feeling a bit rusty in the chemistry or the stats, they'll get you back up to speed when you start with us at George's. We also believe that we've got an ethical as well as a legal obligation to support disabled students. Now, I do get approached from time to time with students concerned that their disability may be a barrier to them taking up their place in a healthcare profession. So just to say from the outset, there are very few, if any, barriers to disabled people entering the healthcare profession. There's really no barrier there. And our aim is to ensure that our support is just as rounded as possible to make sure that everybody is supported. And that includes the academic dimension as well as the clinical placements and other things that you'll be doing, as well as all the stuff that surrounds those things, like your housing and other things as well. Now, it is worth just saying that talking to us early if you're disabled really does help us make sure that everything is in place to start supporting you from the very beginning of your studies. It can take a while to get everything up and running and in place that you need. So please do talk to us nice and early so we can make sure that everything is up and running and going. Now, it's also worth just saying that some students, about 50% of people with a specific learning difficulty, find that out at university. And so we offer free assessments to all students, and free specialist support as well, if that's the situation that you might find yourself in. So let's have a look at finance. So I guess the first thing that I'd like to say here is really just to reassure you, there are 2.5 million university students in the UK at the moment. Now, these are folk who are on the same financial footing as you will be when you are studying. The amounts of money involved in higher education at the moment are daunting. Student loans are large, fees look big. And there's a lot to think about, but just remember there are 2.5 million people who are managing okay on it. It's not necessarily an easy thing, but it is a thing that people can do, and you can do it too, and we are here to help you do it. So just some things to keep in mind. UK tuition fees are currently £9,250. They are largely set by Parliament. Will we see things change in the next few years before you start? That's a possibility. And we'll communicate that all the way through. But just for the moment, the data we've got 9,250. Maximum maintenance loan. So this is for UK students who are living away from the family home in London. The maximum amount you can get in a loan from Student Finance England is £12,382 per year. And also just to note that students who are undertaking training towards allied health professions, so physiotherapy, radiography, paramedic science, and indeed our colleagues doing midwifery and nursing, they're also eligible for a bursary from the NHS of £5,000 per academic year as well. Now, if you're taking out a student loan, there are no upfront costs for attending university. So the Student Finance England or the Scottish equivalent or the Welsh equivalent or the Northern Irish equivalent will pay for your fees. And everybody is guaranteed to receive that loan if they apply for it. So if you're a UK student and it's your first degree, if you're not taking a degree, an undergraduate degree for the second time, you are eligible to have it funded by government. Now, the loans that you take out, both for your tuition fees and for your maintenance costs, become repayable after graduation once you're earning more than £27,000 per year. Also, just to note that tuition fee and maintenance support is available for all of the programs at St. George's, including graduate entry pre-registration courses. Now, you may have heard that, indeed I've just said, that there are limited funds for people who are doing a second undergraduate degree. Now, just to note that for MBBS 4, for the graduate entry medicine program at George's, and the MSc physiotherapy program, they are exceptions to that rule. So those courses are fully funded from a variety of different means for your studies for the years that you're in. So do bear that in mind. Also, just to add, hardship funds are available for all students. We've got a pot of money aside for students who find themselves in unexpected difficulty while they're studying, as will most places. If you find yourself in financial difficulty at any point, do just get in touch and we can help. Now, there are some things that you can start doing now. So I think we're quite early in the application process as I'm talking to you today. So there are some things to get underway with. I think the most important one of those is to get a budget together for your tuition and maintenance costs and for the amount of money that you might have coming in. Now, there are some great budgeting tools and some finance calculators available online to help you do that. You can find those by checking our website. We'll point you at the various calculators, or the NHS one, or the Student Finance England one, or just Google them. There are loads of things out there, and you can work out within about 20 minutes of online searching just how much you're likely to have as income and how much you're likely to spend as a student living in London, and let you work yourself out a budget for the years that you'll be in study. It's really important to do that. It's also a really good idea to look at other sources of funding beyond Student Finance England or the NHS. There are a huge number of trusts and charities and other organizations that are there to support students in higher education, especially those students that are doing healthcare courses. So do get out and have a look for those as well. And then lastly, a quick look at accommodation. So things to know there. Most undergraduate students, certainly at St. George's, live in halls of residence with us in year one and then move out into private accommodation nearby in subsequent years. That's the typical pattern. We own our own halls of residence, Horton Halls. It's about a mile away from the university main campus, and it houses 480 students. That's about 80% of our first year intake who live in halls of residence with us. Now, we guarantee places in halls to our international students, disabled students, and students with other welfare needs. We prioritize places for all other first-year students. That includes graduate entry medics, that includes master's physician associate students, that includes MSc physiotherapy students. We have great thriving communities of our graduate entry and postgrad students in halls as well. Our halls is for everyone. Similarly, we don't prioritize places based on postcode or distance from campus. So we are looking for folk who want to get away and have a moving out of home campus-based university experience, even if they live in London already. We're here for you. In terms of rent, to note, we benchmark our rents against local private housing as well as other halls of residence. There's been a great boom in the recent years of private companies coming into the student residential sector. That has driven prices up. What we do is we make sure that we benchmark against what housing actually costs in our local area, not just what housing costs look like in higher education. And we keep our rents firmly under control that way. I'd never argue seriously to anybody that staying in halls of residence, even with us, was an inexpensive option. But I would argue, looking against local rents, we certainly are a less expensive option in a lot of cases. And halls is an extension of our student services team and is a central part of what we do as a welfare provision. So we really are there to support everybody to move in, start university, have a great time, really get underway with your studies, and really get you off on the right foot in terms of university and on into your future career. So it's a big part of what we do. And I think halls is a really terrific opportunity and a really excellent thing to do in your first year. So that's largely it from me. We've got some of my colleagues who are in the chat already for this webinar, so you can dive in and ask them questions. If you've got anything else that you'd like to know, you can contact us through the inquiries team. They'll pass on any individual or complex questions, and we're very, very happy to answer them. So please just ask us. And a slight bonus for me. I'm aware sometimes that we don't just have future students looking at this, but we also have mums and dads looking at this as well. So if you're a mum and dad watching, or you want to let them know a few things if they're concerned, here are a few things that I'd like them to know as well. The first of that is George's is one of the safest campuses in London per the Metropolitan Police stats. We are a very safe place. We're in a very, very safe part of a big city. Students don't behave as you'd imagine is another thing I'd like you to know. Our students typically, as are many university students, our students typically are in employment. They are typically involved in community activities. The local community is usually very pleased to see our students coming rather than the opposite. They really are a huge boon to the local area. And so our students are not as students might normally be perceived to be. Universities, and George's included, will offer support and training to new students and don't pull any punches. We do anti-racism training in our first week. We do anti-sexual violence training in our first week. We don't pull any punches about what our community is about or what sort of profession that folks are trying to get into. So that will happen in the first week to keep everybody safe, to introduce them to community and really get them thinking about what's going to come ahead. We usually can't talk to you without the student directly requesting. And lastly, having the talk, and I don't mean that talk, I mean a talk about finances is hugely invaluable and really, really is probably the best thing that you can do for a student before they get off to university. Anyway, that's my time. Thank you very much for listening to me today. Again, there are folk available for questions in the chat, and we're available really from now until you start and right the way through if you've got to ask us. My name's Gavin Taylor. Thank you very much for coming to see us today online, and we look forward to seeing you in the future.
Okay, I hope you guys enjoyed that video. For those of you that might have joined us a bit late, my name is Lanisha and I'm going to be the host for the event today. And so we've just played a video which details student support services here at St. George's. For those that did join late, I will repeat this video right at the end of the webinar so you won't miss any of the information that has already been said. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the next segment of this webinar, where you're going to hear from our course director, Yasmin Malik, and she's going to give you an overview of our therapeutic radiography course. So if I could ask Yasmin to join us on camera.
Hi, everyone. My name is Yasmin. I'm the course director for therapeutic radiography here at St. George's University. And as you can see, I'm at home in my study. Right, show my screen, not yet. So I'm just going to share the presentation, screen 2. Right, so I've got another monitor here, so I'm going to be looking at the presentation there. Now, joining me today, we also have with us Ahmed. He's part of our teaching team. He's our lecturer and our new admissions tutor for this cycle. What I mean by this cycle is that I was also the admissions tutor for the previous 2 cycles, 2 years. So I'm going to be supporting Ahmed as he transitions into this new role. Right, so we all want to be therapeutic radiographers. Right, so I'm going to just run through the presentation. And if you have questions, feel free to put them in the chat box. Ahmed will be answering your questions, and then I will answer the questions after the presentation. Right. Okay, so St. George's University of London, we're the only UK university dedicated to healthcare science, education and research. We're the only UK university to share a campus with a teaching hospital, St. George's University Hospital. And so what I mean by that is that when you actually come onto the campus, there's a hospital and there's a university, and they share that site together. So when you're walking along one corridor, it feels very much like a hospital. Then you walk through another corridor to get to classrooms, etc., and lecture theatres. It will feel like a university. When you're in the hospital part, there will be patients and other healthcare professionals walking around. And then when you're in the university part, you can only access that with an ID card. So then when you swipe and you're in the corridor, and in the university part, it will feel like a university. There won't be patients there. There won't be healthcare professionals and the public walking around. So it will only be university students. But as we share that site with the hospital, there are some lecture theatres and classrooms that are around the whole of the site. So sometimes you have to go through the hospital part in order to get to the classroom. So you actually feel as if, like, when you enter the university, the main entrance, or the hospital, it will feel as if you are completely immersed in a healthcare environment, and you'll be learning with like-minded students. So they're going to be students who are on our medical programs, diagnostic radiography, physiotherapy, occupational therapy, nursing, etc. It's not going to be like your other regular type of universities where you get to meet students who are studying, say, business studies or computer science. So this is very much dedicated to healthcare professionals. So within the university, we are part of the Centre for Allied Health. So our section, or our department, is called Radiotherapy and Oncology. There's 5 sections within the Centre for Allied Health, of which one of them is us, and then we are part of the Institute of Medical and Biomedical Education. Now, there's 2 types of radiographers, a diagnostic radiographer and a therapeutic radiographer. Both are completely different. They have different programs, so you study separately, you study 2 different professions, totally different. And when you work, you're working either as a diagnostic radiographer or a therapeutic radiographer. So if you train as a diagnostic, you're not going to be working in a therapeutic radiography environment. If you train as a therapeutic radiographer, you're not going to be working in a diagnostic environment. So when you're completing your UCAS application forms, I would prefer, if you need to do some kind of study, you need to research, go on YouTube, go on the Royal Marsden Hospital's website, and there'll be some little clips and information about what a therapeutic radiographer does, because you need to have a good idea of what the actual role involves and whether you really want to do this profession. Because once you start, you will be on a therapeutic radiography degree pathway. You won't be able to swap over to, say, diagnostic radiography. And when you come for your interview, which we call an MMI, a multiple mini interview, the first question we ask you is, why do you want to be a therapeutic radiographer? So at that time, you need to have a clear idea of which profession you are applying for. Okay. Because quite often I get applications where students have applied for both programs. So then I will always ask the admissions team to email the student to find out which particular one you want to apply for. And then only the therapeutic radiography students are interviewed. So therapeutic radiographers work in a radiotherapy department, and they work with X-rays, just like a diagnostic radiographer, because both the diagnostic radiography and therapeutic radiographers, they work with X-rays. Diagnostic radiographer works on, uses X-rays to image and just take X-rays of patients to find out what's wrong with them. But a therapeutic radiographer uses X-rays at the higher energy range, so that's megavoltage energy, and they're using those X-rays to treat patients primarily with cancer. So a therapeutic radiographer will work in a radiotherapy department and will be treating patients who have cancer. So it's a treatment of cancer, and there are 3 areas that therapy radiography works in. One is radiotherapy treatment planning, radiotherapy treatment delivery, and also patient care. So treatment planning, now that involves equipment such as a CT scanner. So a therapy radiographer will work in a CT scanner section, and they will set the patient up, and they will then plan how the patient's going to be lying down, how they're going to be mobilized for that particular cancer. And then once we've got the CT scans, that CT data is then input into a treatment planning software system. So this image here, the second one, is a CT slice through the actual thorax, like the chest. So on here you can see that here we've got the breast, and then we've got all the other organs that are close to the actual cancer. Then the therapeutic radiographer, their role is to sit in front of this computer planning system and create a treatment plan that is specific for that particular patient. So it's about creating a plan so that the tumor itself will receive a tumoricidal dose, but at the same time, we need to minimize dose to all other anatomical and normal tissue structures in the body that are in close proximity to this area here. Once we have the treatment plan for that patient, then the next stage is treatment delivery. In radiotherapy treatment delivery section, we work in a team of 2, 3, or 4 radiographers. So you're never going to be working on your own to treat a patient. It will always be in a team of 2, 3, or sometimes 4 therapeutic radiographers. And the aim here is that we set the patient up in exactly the same position as how they were planned during the CT planning stage. So what we're trying to do here is reproduce the exact same position as their treatment plan. Now, patients will come in for their radiotherapy treatment, typically Monday to Friday, over about 4 to 6 weeks. So you get to know the patient, and so patient communication is extremely important. Because you bring the patient in, you're talking to the patient, you're asking them to lie down, and then when they're lying down, you're also positioning the patient into that correct position. Now, our therapeutic radiographers work with patients who are going to be lying on the bed and they are going to be semi-dressed. So you need to be comfortable about touching patients, because it is about touching the patient and then moving them into the right position. So what will you study on the program? Well, you will study anatomy, physiology, pathology, and imaging. So you need to learn about what normal anatomical structures look like in the body. You need to know what they look like on an image, because when you're taking CT scans or when you're treating a patient, you'll also be taking CT scans on the X-ray machine. You need to be able to check and ensure that you've positioned the patient accurately before you hit the button to start that radiotherapy treatment. Because it's a high dose of radiation, once it's given, it can't be taken away from the patient. So that's why accuracy and reproducibility in radiotherapy treatment is extremely important. You also learn pathology, and so that's all about the disease. So the different types of cancers in the body, so skin cancer, brain cancer, prostate, bladder cancer, cervical cancer, breast cancer, head and neck cancer, lymphomas, leukemia. So you learn all the different range of cancers that you are likely to see in radiotherapy practice. You will also learn oncology, so that's the oncological management of the cancer, radiotherapy techniques, and science and technology. Now, oncological management also involves learning about how to manage the tumor with surgery, chemotherapy, hormone therapy, antibody therapy, immunotherapy. So you won't just learn about radiotherapy treatment and radiotherapy technique, but you will also learn about all the different other types of ways that we manage and treat the cancer. So patient communication, clinical skills, so essential skills in clinical practice, and research. Research, you'll have the opportunity in the final year to carry out a piece of work, a project of your choice, which will involve planning and organizing and writing up any kind of topic of your choice, but has to be linked to radiotherapy. And so that's like doing some statistical analysis and writing up your conclusions and recommendations, as if you're going to write a piece of paper for publication, but we will help you on that. So you will have research supervisors assigned to you from year 2 onwards to help facilitate that. This is our simulation suite. So at St George's University on campus, we have 2 simulation suites. One is our virtual learning environment and the other one is our treatment planning suite. This is our virtual learning environment. So here you can see our students, and this is a linear accelerator. So it's like a bit like a flight simulator. So it mimics all the movements of a X-ray radiotherapy treatment machine that you will see in clinical practice. And it's called a linear accelerator, or LINAC for short. So students will practice the movements of the machine before they enter clinical practice, and then when they return back from practice, they will then continue to build on those skills of the treatment machine, how to move it and all the other different types of beam parameters like field size, angle of the machine, in order to treat the patients. And then you will also learn imaging, because we have CT data on the simulator, and we also have like the patient contour. So we've got CT data that creates the whole body of a patient, anonymized patient, real patients, that you'll be able to then see the surface of the patient, and then you take off the layer of the surface, skin surface, and you can then see all the anatomical internal structures within the body. And then when we put the beam on a simulation, it will then show you how it enters the body and how it interacts with the tissue and then exits out of the body. Simulation education is a really important part of our curriculum, and it's embedded within the 3 years. So all throughout the 3 years, from when you do the first module in the first year to your final year, you will have simulation education incorporated within the curriculum. So it's not like a standalone module that you'll do in the 2nd or 3rd year. Also in our simulation suite, our virtual learning environment, again, we've got our students here, and we've got a dummy here, and you will learn how to position patients. So here they're working in a team, they're talking to, learning how to talk to the patients, or communication, also giving instructions and information to each other on how they're going to align the patient. In the room, we also have like lasers. They're just like green lights, and they help to position the patient. It mimics exactly what we would be doing in radiotherapy practice. So this environment gives them a really safe place to learn those skills before they enter clinical practice. And then when they come back, then they've got more opportunity to build on those skills. This is our treatment planning suite. So in there, we've got lots of computer software. And so with treatment planning, students can either come into the campus on site and carry out their treatment planning. We've got workbooks that they can work through, and we also teach and facilitate those sessions. Or we have our cloud-based software system. So that means that they can load up this software, our treatment planning software, because it's on the cloud, onto their computers at home and on their tablets. We give students Samsung tablets, not iPads this year, Samsungs. They all got Samsungs this year. So you get Samsung, and you can put your treatment planning software on there. And the advantage of that is that whether you're in clinical practice or whether you're at home or in the weekends, you can log on to the cloud-based treatment planning software system and build on those planning, those skills, work through the workbooks, and just build those treatment planning skills. So there's a workbook on, you start off with one single field that you have to plan on a spine, then you move on to the whole brain, then the breast, then the prostate. So it gets more difficult and more challenging as you're working through these treatment planning workbooks. It is really good, and because we've got this remote on the cloud system, it means that the software is always constantly updated. It's a collaboration with varying medical systems. So that means in the radiotherapy department, this particular software is what you will see, and what the radiographers therapeutic radiographers work with. This is what it kind of looks like. So it's a CT slice through the chest, and this is a virtual simulation of the breast. And so therapeutic radiographers will learn how to place the beams, because you can see, for example, this one has 2 beams that will enter and exit out of the body, because you don't want to have an X-ray machine that's pointing straight up, because it'll go through the breast and the lung and the spinal cord, and you will learn that you can't plan like that, because a lot of the structures in the body are very radius sensitive, so they're sensitive to radiation, and if you give them a higher dose than they can tolerate, then it will cause serious side effects. So you learn about how to angle the and put the different beam parameters using this planning system. I've got a taster lecture, a link here for anyone that might be interested in having a look at that, and it's also on our website. Right, so core structure, the important bit that you want to know, is 50-50. So you spend half your time in academic and half your time in clinical practice. So you have academic blocks, then you have a clinical, then you have another academic block, and then a clinical. But you'll also get holidays as well. You'll have 1 day off a study during your academic block and 1 day off study in your clinical block. I'm just looking at the time because I might talk too much. You have a range of assessments. So you have written assessments, you've got multiple choice assessments, coursework, project work. So it's various different types of assessments throughout the 3 years. Students have an opportunity to be involved at university level or even at program level. So you can become student ambassadors and take part in student activities, and you get paid for that. I believe it's about £10 something per hour. You can also be a student year rep. You don't get paid for that. And you can also attend program level meetings, because student experience and student feedback is very important to us. And we like to listen to our students because, for example, during academic blocks, we used to give students always had 1 day off a study. But when they were in clinical, last year, they were in clinical for 5 days a week without a study day. And that was because we were giving giving students longer holidays. So in response to our student feedback from all our students, they all wanted a day off during clinical. And so this year, from 21 and onwards, all students will have 1 day off a study during their clinical block. So we do listen to students. Right. So this is what you will learn throughout the 3 years. So in year 1, you learn about development of cancer. So you'll learn what a normal cell looks like, and then why it goes wrong and what goes wrong with it in order for it to become a cancer, and then how to treat that cancer with different types of modalities like surgery, hormone therapy, chemotherapy, radiotherapy, immunotherapy, etc. You'll also learn science and tech. And don't worry, it's not physics, it's not degree level physics. It's about what X-rays are, how they work, how they enter the body, how they interact with the tissue, what damage they can do in the body. So that's what you learn, and the design and operation of equipment. So you need to know how an X-ray machine works. You need to know how a CT scanner works, how an MRI scanner works. That's the level of understanding that you need when it comes to physics. So it's not really pure physics. In fact, it's not even A-level physics. It's aimed at having an understanding of the job and what it involves and what radiation is. Year 2, you start to build on those skills and developments. And then by year 3, your focus is then integrated with knowledge and practical skills. And you continue with TPS, which is treatment planning system, and you also learn image matching skills. Image matching just means that when a patient comes in for radiotherapy, they also have some X-rays taken. It's a CT scanner that's attached to our X-ray machine, the linear accelerator. And so then by taking an image of the patient, we're then comparing that image with the image that was taken during the CT scanner treatment treatment planning stage, and we're just image matching. So we're matching the anatomical structures to check if they've moved, if the tumor or the target volume has moved out of place. Because if it has, then we have to make adjustments before we start the treatment, because then, you know, we're checking for, again, accuracy in treatment delivery before we switch that radiotherapy treatment machine on. In the third year, you'll also have an opportunity to carry out a piece of research. And as I said earlier, you'll be assigned research supervisors from year 2, not year 3. And then you'll also have an opportunity to think of something that you want to audit, like improve in clinical practice. So it can be anything for that you want to, you know, quality and service improvement, anything that you think you might want to improve on, and you just write a piece of coursework on that. You will also have an opportunity to have an elective. An elective just means that an opportunity to maybe go abroad or go to a different hospital and have a look at and see what they do. But electives, you will only have that opportunity if your clinical is all up to date. All right, so this is just a snapshot of what our year plan looks like. This is how it looks like for our current 2021 cohort, where we always have 3 terms. So you've got these 3 terms here. So you've got academic block, then you have a virtual learning environment block, holidays. So we do give you holidays, so time to rest and reflect on what you've learned. And then academic again, but first clinical block is always in term 2, so that's in January. So you get about 2 weeks, and then a bit more academia, and then academic, and then you have assessments, and then you'll notice we also have a resit for anyone that fails. Clinical placements, those are our clinical placement sites. So Royal Marsden, Royal Surrey, and Kent. And students get paid, I think you get your travel paid from as if you were traveling from university to the hospital site. So you can claim that back. If you want to stay on site or near that area, you will get a percentage of the cost. You can claim that back as well. But those are hospital sites. This is our team. So we're a small team of full-time members. And then we also have other clinical practice educators, clinical staff, other experts that come and teach on our program as well. Uniform policy, you will get 5 tunics, we will provide that, and you'll get a number of trousers. The only thing you need to provide really is some comfortable shoes, because you'll be on your feet when you're in clinical practice. So you want something comfortable, and they have to be black. If you wear a headscarf, it needs to be black and neatly tucked in your tunic. We operate a bare below the elbow policy, which is the same with any other healthcare program in any other university and within the NHS. And so that means you can't have your arms covered. If you intend to wear something underneath your tunic, again, it must not cover any part of your arm. So you can't wear something underneath and cover it up to your elbow. Our policy is bare below the elbow, and we have no exceptions to that rule. That's the Department of Health uniform work for wear policy. It is on our website, so do go on there and have a look and read that. Before students start, it is part of our enrolment, and you will have to sign a student agreement to say that you comply with the uniform policy. Equality, everyone deserves to be treated fairly and have access to healthcare services, regardless of your views. It's the law. So that means you can't just say, I don't want to treat someone because of their gender. That's just an example. So, you know, and that really is the same for any healthcare professional program in the UK. And you can read up the law if you want, but it is, that's very important, that you treat every single person fairly and equally, because everyone has the right to fair and access treatment. regardless of what your thoughts and views are. Application to study, we have an inclusive entry criteria, so you can go across and look at the website for our entry criteria. We have a fair selection process, so it's not just one interview, it's like these 6 mini interviews, and this year the interviews are remote and online, so that means the admissions team will give you all that information. They'll send that to you when you're invited for an interview, and so it involves you making a recording, sending that through, and then we assess those. So the things that we assess are based on the NHS values. So the first question is always going to be, as I said before, why do you want to be a therapeutic radiographer? So you need to have some idea of why. You know, you want to work with in a healthcare profession. You want to work with patients. You can talk about some experience at school, a project you might have completed, voluntary work that you may have carried out. If you're working in a shop, you know, in a pharmacy, or any kind of, or Waitrose or McDonald's, I shouldn't have said Waitrose, Sainsbury's, Tesco, anywhere. But if you're working there, that, you know, you've got customer care, and then those type of skills you can bring in to your personal statement, even on the UCAS form. But we're looking for those kind of core values. And so the rest of those 5 questions are never about therapeutic radiography. We will ask you questions based on scenarios, and we will assess you on how you answer those questions. Skills that we're looking for are those. So they're the core skills: learning and within the workplace, like working as a team is really important, having compassion, empathy, and being honest. And remaining calm under pressure. Criteria is on our website, so you can go over there and have a look at our criteria, but it is subject to the qualifications, and also having satisfactory health clearance, so that's occupational health, and police screening, and passing the multiple mini interview, and also signing the agreement to adhere to our uniform policy. So that's on the website. Application process, that's our UCAS code that you probably already have. So institution code is SGEO-S49, and a couple of links for our taster lectures are on this presentation. And those are our useful contacts. Any questions? Hi, Ellie. Was that okay?
Hi. Yeah, that was fine. Thank you so much. It was very informative, and I hope our audience found it informative as well. Thank you so much for that. Yasmin is going to leave us for a few moments while we invite our current student on screen to talk to you guys for a few minutes, but she will join us again for a live Q&A session. So if you do have any questions, please do send those in to us, and we will get those answered for you, either a typed response or in our live Q&A. Okay.
Thank you. Or you can post some questions in the chat facility, because I'm still around, so I can answer those. Right, so awesome. What do you want?
Thank you. So I will invite our current student on screen now. So Benita, can you join us?
Hiya.
Hiya. So this is Benita, one of our current students, and she's going to talk to you for a few minutes about life as a therapeutic radiography student at St. George's. Thank you.
Thank you. So my name is Benita, and I'm studying therapeutic radiography, and I'm currently in 3rd year. So I'm originally from Portsmouth, and I chose St. George's because of the course curriculum, and the VERT and the TPS rooms really stood out to me when I visited on my open day. I also really loved it because of the course structure and how it was divided 50-50 from placement and clinical and university, sorry. So I thought that was really useful to be able to apply your knowledge that you got from university into a clinical setting. Also, I thought that it would be a really good experience to learn new things that you might not learn at university. So it really stood out to me. So as Yasmin said, the Vert Room is the system where we can virtually use the machine, and that's the one that we use at placement as well. So this was really helpful when we came to practicing before we went out into placement, just to see how to control the bed. So we weren't really that clueless when we walked into placement that first day. And then the TPS room, which you've also seen, is for the radiotherapy planning. And this was really intriguing to me because I love the technical side of things. So this was quite interesting to me. And so we were able to like practice making plans using the software and get an idea on the background of these treatments. So when we came to seeing this in placement, it wasn't brand new to us. We knew the settings and the software, so we could understand what was going on. So I really enjoyed these two things. And learning anatomy in the vet room was really helpful, just because we could see all those different structures, and in the different imaging as well. So like as Yasmin said, that you could see it, the different organs in the CT scans and other x-rays as well. So currently I am placed at the Royal Surrey for my placement, and I've been there for 3 years. It's been an amazing experience. So the past 3 years, I've really grown as a professional. So I've gained loads of experience just from being there, because I've been able to see many different treatments, such as brachytherapy, Galmay skin treatments, Sabre treatments for lung metastases, and the standard external beam treatments that you can see. So I've been able to participate in all of those treatments, and I've been able to see patients right from the start of their journey with the oncologist. So that's been really useful to know what they're going through and to get that clinical experience. So I've also seen the new Ethos machine, which you can see on the right hand side of the PowerPoint. So that's a new treatment machine that's recently come in, and which is at the Royal Surrey at the moment, and they've just started doing adaptive treatments for patients. So that's currently under trial right now. So I've been able to participate in that and observe what they're doing. So it's quite, the staff do get you quite involved with the treatment and by introducing yourself to the patients and stuff. So you are getting the most out of your education that way. So university itself is obviously hard, and if this is your first time in higher education, it can be quite challenging, because it's quite a huge jump from college. So you don't have people chasing you up for deadlines and stuff. You are very much independent, but it does help you become more organized and manage your time really well. Also with the pandemic, it did leave us quite in charge of our learning, as there was less contact with the lecturers, but we could always get in touch with them through email, so it was all right. Having the in-person lectures were really useful because you could ask plenty of questions and discussions. So it wasn't exactly the same online, but it did mean that we did get that flexibility in our studies. So throughout the pandemic, we have been keeping in touch through like WhatsApp chats with our own cohort, and keeping in touch through online social events, but it is quite easier to interact in person. So now that we have a mixture of in-person and online classes, I think that's quite good, because we get to focus our time on our learning. With the online learning, we get a bit more flexibility, and then the in-person teaching allows us to ask any questions where we're really unsure of things, and discuss any topics with our lecturers. So far, the best moments I've had in St. George's has been able to participate in the university events, so such as the socials or the fairs and events that they've been hosting. Recently, I've been taking part in the student staff partnership grant. So this was a research project that we were doing about the effects of online engagement on students. And this was a great experience for me because I learned a lot of new skills and it really involved me with the research team. So it taught me a lot. So I'm really grateful to be in this course because it has allowed me to grow in confidence with a lot of new skills. So whilst I've been at uni, I have been managing a part-time job as well. So in first year, I was working both days on the weekend. But once it got to placement time, that got very stressful because we were at placement every day of the week. So if you are feeling like you are going to be working during university, I would recommend doing something that doesn't take up your whole weekend, maybe just so that you can balance university life, your social life, and then work. Because I did find it quite hard when I was working 2 days to get everything done, and it does take a lot out on you. So now I've decreased to just 1 day. It's a lot better for me to balance all of my uni work and everything. So because I didn't live at halls from first year, I didn't get to attend that many socials during freshers. So I think during that time it wasn't really advertised to people living away from uni, but now there's many social media accounts such as on Instagram that St. George's have that promote the freshers and all the other events that are happening. So that's a good way to keep up with everything that's happening with the uni. But they also send out emails about the events as well, so that's very good. So yeah, that's all from me. If you have any questions.
Thank you so much for that, Benita. I hope you guys enjoyed the information that Benita shared with you. So now we're going to go into a live Q&A segment. So any remaining questions that you guys have, please do send them in. I'm going to ask if Yasmin can please join us again on screen. Hi, Yasmin. No, you're muted, I think.
There we go.
Yeah.
Hello.
Okay. Hi. So we do have a few questions from the registration forms and also that have come into the chat now. I think the first one, or the first question that will clear up is one that was asked about personal statements and whether if you're applying for, let's say, medicine and radiography, if you can submit an additional personal statement. So I know there was a few responses that were sent into the chat, but just to clarify, there is only one personal statement that can be submitted when you apply through UCAS. And obviously we do understand that you apply for multiple courses. I think what's important is that you, somewhere within your personal statement, let's say if you're applying for medicine and radiography, you should somewhere have something in there that shows an interest for that course as well. Obviously, the admissions tutors do understand that when people do apply for medicine and another course, medicine is maybe their main course, but you have to show an interest in the other courses that you're applying for as well in the one personal statement. Would you like to add something, Yasmin?
Yes, I totally agree with you. What we like to see in a personal statement is that you have some interest in working in healthcare. So if you're not sure about whether you're going to get into medicine and you've got another choice like radiography or physiotherapy, whatever it might be, we like to see that you have an interest in working in the NHS. And what is it about healthcare that really interests you? So if we can pick up on those kind of things, and then in your personal statement, you can you don't have to just say I only want to do medicine. Open yourself up to some other programs that are aligned to medicine. So, reasons why you want to do medicine. However, you also have an interest in working with patients, treating patients with cancers, pathology, all that kind of stuff. So therefore, therapeutic radiography also interests you. That's fair.
Yeah.
But don't ask for two person. You don't like if you don't get into medicine, you don't then just submit another personal statement. No, I think just a general interest in why healthcare, and then put down whatever choices you want at St George's. Choose us.
Thank you for that, Yasmin. So first, I'm going to go with the questions that were sent in when people registered. Most of those were answered through your talk, Yasmin, and also through what you said, Benita. But there are a few still outstanding. I want us to just go through those and just answer these questions for our audience. So one question is, how has the COVID-19 pandemic affected students' abilities to learn? I know you touched on this a bit, Benita, when you was talking about learning online versus in person. But would you say that the pandemic has affected your ability to learn? I know the teaching style has differed, but what about your ability to actually learn? Was that affected?
I think it really depends on your motivation. So this is basically what my study was based on when I was doing the student staff partnership grant. So we found that a lot of people lacked motivation when they were online just because they were so dependent on themselves. So for me, I was quite organized with my learning, so I didn't find it as hard. It didn't affect me because I kept to a timetable where I was doing my work, so I was able to do my uni assignments all on time and everything. So I wouldn't say it personally affected me.
Thank you. And a question for you, Yasmin. Somebody asked if it is still possible to join the course for 2021 entry.
Oh, no. No, unfortunately not. It's only because, I mean, we had to have a deadline, and the deadline really was 18th. We did have a waiting list, and which we've actually this year we had an increase of 51% of applications for our program, so we were quite popular. And the reason we have a deadline is because then end of November, we've got students will have an assessment, so it means you would have already missed quite a lot of work. So the answer, unfortunately, is no, but do apply for next year. We'd love to see you then.
Thank you, Yasmin. And another question for you. There was a question basically asking about the suitability of somebody in their late 40s applying for or studying on this course. Do we have many mature students, and what would you suggest if somebody at that mature age wanted to study this course?
Absolutely. The answer is yes. We are all inclusive. This year we have I don't want to use the word mature students, but yes, we have students who are over 30 or over 25. We've got students that are in their 40s and in their 50s. It's never too late to learn. And as long as you make the criteria, you fulfill that criteria, entry criteria, then yes, it should make absolutely no difference whatsoever. In fact, I will give you a little example. Our clinical lead has had a career in IT, and then Lauren, she did therapeutic radiography, our program, and then 3 years clinical when she graduated, and in her 50s, and now she's actually a senior lecturer. She's part of our team, and she's the clinical lead. So we value the skills that maybe mature students who may have had experiences from other jobs, if you've worked somewhere else, they're all transferable skills. You don't just all of a sudden start learning new skills. You'll learn new knowledge and incorporate your existing skills and bring them in. And I think it's more valuable. In fact, like patient communication, some of our younger students find that quite challenging. And at first they might be a bit shy, but the other students above 40, 50 do really well. So yeah, we don't discriminate.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Yasmin. A question for you, Benita. How did you find the transition between A-levels and university study?
So it was definitely a big jump in the level of independence. So as I said, when you obviously have your classes, you have certain deadlines and stuff, and your teacher would always remind you. That's not really the case for university. It's more you do your own independent study. Obviously, you do get input from your lecturers and you can ask them questions whenever, but it's more independent on you to organize your learning and stuff like that. So it was quite hard to get used to that. But once you get used to sorting yourself out with your deadlines and what you need to do for lectures and stuff like that, or if you're confused about something, getting in touch with lecturers, after you get used to all of that, I think it's easy to settle into.
Thank you. Another question. Go on. Yep. Yes. Yasmin. Yep.
No, Benita's absolutely right. I mean, the only one thing I want to add is having friendship groups, making those key friendships right at the start are key because they act as a support for students. And quite often, if you have a large cohort, you're always going to get naturally small groups who will have study groups. And as Benita said earlier, all our students are on a WhatsApp group, so they do chat. And many of them have these little study groups which provide peer support. So yeah, helps.
Awesome. Somebody has asked, ideally, when should they submit their UCAS application for the course in order to gain an advantage or a better chance of being accepted?
I don't think there's an advantage. The deadline is, I believe, the 26th of January. I think that's the UCAS deadline. So whenever you submit, then I think we start our interview process from November, and it runs all the way through March, April. So if you've submitted, you fulfill the criteria, and then our admission team will offer an interview. Then you'll have an interview. They will go through all that process, and then we make a decision on that. So you'll have an offer, and then you hold that offer until you want to accept by a certain deadline. There are deadlines to everything, so there's no real advantage, you know, of sending it in early, but it gives us an idea of how many come in.
Awesome, thank you, Yasmin. And a question for either of you: is the university diverse?
Oh God, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if you haven't been to Tooting and you live in London, and you're thinking of coming to St George's, I would suggest take the tube or don't drive, unless you want to drive. It's £25 parking a day at St George's Hospital, so it's a bit expensive. But it's about £2, I think, per hour to park around Tooting area. But come down, have a look, and get a feel of the place. It's very diverse, and it's very reflective of the university, because it's in the London area. It's on the tube network. We attract a diverse range of students. So if you're not sure and you've never been to London, or you've never come to Tooting, pop on a train and come along with your parents or some friends and have a walk around. You'll find lots of different restaurants to eat. There's is it called KT Maxx? What's that thing? What's that store that students love? There's
TK Maxx.
Yeah, that's it. I said it the other way around. There's a TK Maxx. There's lots of restaurants. Yeah, there's a lot. Tooting has a lot to offer. If you're not sure, come and have. In fact,
we have another.
Can I just say, even St George's on site, they've got Pretz, they've got M&S, so you can come into the hospital if you want and have a coffee if you want. That's it.
Awesome. Thank you, Yasmin. We have a question about entry criteria. So the question is, for a mature student, if you don't have A levels but you have a degree, they did a science-based foundation prior to their degree, would this be recognised by the university? So I guess it's about what our criteria is for those without traditional A levels.
Yeah, I mean, we do consider a range of qualifications. The information is on our website, so I would suggest you have a look at that, and then if you're not sure, you can write into the admissions team and they will then let you know, because what normally happens is if you're not sure and you've submitted your application, if it's outside the criteria, then the admission team will speak to me and we will then have a look and then we will give you feedback. But if first point, look at the website, contact the admissions team, because I can't really make a judgment based on what you may have told me. I need to have a look to see what the qualifications are and how what the degree was. But having said that, we have got students, mature students, who have had a degree on for something completely different, and then so it just depends. So I can't really answer that one.
Awesome. Okay, we've got time for a few more questions. So one, which is probably a very simple one to answer. If you do badly in the interview, would you still get an offer to study in this course?
No. Think of it like this though, you've got 6 chances. There's 6 mini interviews, and each one is like, I think, about 5 minutes each. So you get a question or a scenario and then you have to problem solve, or just answer it, and we're looking at your decision making process. But unfortunately, if you fail the MMI, then you will not be offered a place on the program, so it's a no. And that also means that you can't come through clearing, because we'll have a record of that. So yeah, it's a no.
Okay, thank you. So with regards to what Yasmin just said, if you apply to us for a course, a specific course, let's say therapeutic radiography, in the normal application cycle, and you're unsuccessful after interview, you can't then apply to us again for the course during clearing. You have to wait for the next application cycle. And that goes for any of our courses as well. Okay. Is there going to be an admissions test? So do we have any admissions tests for this course?
By admission test, do you mean like a writing test or a numerical test?
Yeah, I guess they're probably thinking something like maybe UK CAT or one of those types of tests.
No, not for therapeutic radiography, because GCSE has to be, I think, C and above, or whatever. What's that number now? 9 or 7 above? I can't remember. But no, there's no test. I know other universities have them, but we don't.
Okay, great. Thank you, Yasmin. Also,
I can give an example of, I've just seen a question.
About interview questions. I don't really think we can go into any great detail in terms of, so someone asked a question about what types of questions we ask at interview. And for our multi-mini interviews, we can't give out that type of information. I mean, I'll leave it for you to answer, Yasmin.
We do change the questions, but just as an example of one, it's, for example, a question might say that you've baked you're in a bakery, you've baked a cake, the customer comes in and the customer says that you've basically forgot about the allergy, and you put nuts in there, and the customer says, has this cake got nuts? And then it's like, what do you do about it? But it's those type of scenarios. So we're kind of looking for honesty, integrity. Do you own up, or do you just go, here's the cake? Like we once had with one student, and that was a 0.
Awesome. Thank you, Yasmin. Well, that is the end of the questions that we have. Actually, there's one more question. Somebody's asked about job opportunities after they finish the degree. Obviously, you're training to be a therapeutic radiographer, but are there any other careers people can get into after completing this degree?
You mean totally different careers, or ones at
related? Any?
Yeah, once you have that qualification, therapeutic radiography degree, then you can then, when you're working, you can do postgrad. You can specialize in some areas like just treatment planning, or specialize in treatment on review. That means giving patients information about their side effects and that kind of stuff, or you could specialize in research. So there are opportunities for student or qualified graduates to gain experience and then become advanced or consultant level practitioners with postgrad qualifications. Now, if you don't want to do any of that, say you've graduated, you've got this degree, you don't want to now work in therapeutic radiography, end of the day, it is still a degree. So you could just go and work in a bank if they accept that degree. So although it's very specific to therapeutic radiography, when you qualify, you actually register with HCPC, and that means it gives you the right to use the title of therapeutic radiographer and practice as a therapeutic radiographer. But if you don't want to do that, and you want to go in a bank, then you're not HCPC registered. You want to do something completely different. But you have to check with the bank if they, or anything else. Become an influencer.
Awesome. Thank you very much for that, Yasmin. And thank you so much, Benita. Thank you guys for your expert input into this event. So that's the end of this event now, guys, with the live content. For those of you that joined us late, in a moment, I'm going to repeat the student support video, which I played at the start of this event. So if you want to hear more about accommodation, finance, and other student support services, then I'm going to play a video in a moment, which lasts approximately 15 minutes. I'd like to thank you all for joining us this afternoon. I hope all of your questions were answered, and we look forward to hopefully receiving applications from you in the very near future. Thank you very much.
Hello everyone, my name's Gavin Taylor and I'm the Head of Student Services here at St George's. Today I'm going to talk to you about some of the support services that we have for students here at St George's. Many of the services we offer are badged under our Student Centre or Student Life Centre banners, and these include things like health, well-being, learning support, finance and accommodation services. Let's have a look at each of those in turn, and I'll give you some highlights of each of the services as we go through. So the first place to start is health. And let's talk about occupational health. Now, the occupational health team are there to ensure that students and staff are fit to undertake their work or their study alongside patients. And they're the ones in the application process who will ask you for reports about your health and will undertake tests and vaccinate you as necessary. OH are also there to make sure that any health conditions that